Right, hello guys, welcome back. So, as I'm sure we're all aware, Stasis builds are all the rage right now, but that isn't to say that the other four elements have been left in the dust. In fact, Arc and Void have some really strong offerings this season, in part due to reworked exotics and powerful artifact perks. And consequently, today we're covering an Arc Hunter build that's essentially the spiritual successor to one of my most popular Arc Hunter builds from the final shape, but this time with a twist. In that video, Gifted Conviction was the main exotic armor piece in use, and while I will be talking about Gifted Conviction today, our main focus is instead going to be the reworked Raiju's harness. For those of you who weren't aware, Raiju's harness received a complete rework in episode Revenant where they shifted its central focus from Arc Staff to Gathering Storm instead, with its main perk now reading, activating Gathering Storm calls down lightning on all nearby targets, jolting them while also amplifying allies. Defeating Arc debuff targets grants a small amount of Gathering Storm energy. Furthermore, activating your Gathering Storm in the middle of a group of adds occasionally refunds 50% of your super energy, which I believe is supposed to happen all the time, but in testing I found it's a little bit inconsistent. Regardless, the rework now allows your Gathering Storm to be a lot more destructive and be able to be spammed way more often than before, and the focus of today's build is shifting as many resources as we can into getting our Gathering Storm back as quickly as possible. This involves careful selection of some underrated abilities like Tempest Strike and weapons featuring the new Jolting Feedback perk to cultivate a gameplay experience that's nothing short of satisfying, which truth be told, Arc Hunter has always been. The artifact offerings also help to take this build to an entirely new level of crowd control that makes the crowd control powerhouse of Stasis look like child's play, because once everything's up and running, you're going to be able to jolt everything, blind everything, have super fast recharging abilities, and 30-second supers. So let's begin dissecting this build by first looking into our subclass configuration. This video is brought to you by Manscaped, and today they've invited me once again to talk about their newest game changer, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver. The Chairman Pro features a 360-degree contouring head and comes with two interchangeable skin-safe blade heads. You've got the skin-safe 4-blade foil for that super close shave and the skin-safe stubble trimmer for when you want to keep a little bit of edge, and both are designed to help reduce razor burn and irritation, so your skin feels smooth and comfortable after every shave. The Chairman Pro also comes with Flex Adjust technology. The blades and pivoting head flex and adjust to the contours of your face and neck, helping you maintain great contact with your skin at every angle. And if you want even more precision, on the right hand side of the bracket there's a precision lock that once engaged, the blade head sits firm. Plus, it's waterproof, meaning you can use it in the shower. With up to 75 minutes of runtime on a single charge, you can take your time getting the perfect shave. There's also a digital screen that displays the battery level, so you always know when it's time to recharge. It also comes with a travel lock to make sure it doesn't accidentally turn on in your bag, and an LED spotlight to help you see every detail. So if you're looking to elevate your grooming routine, the Chairman Pro is the ultimate tool for the job. Use promo code LLAMA for 20% off your order plus free shipping. That's 20% off plus free international shipping with promo code LLAMA at manscaped.com. Thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. Our super of choice is going to be Gathering Storm, since it's required for Raiju's harness to work properly. Gathering Storm is fantastic for locking down a big group of adds since it covers a very wide area and lasts for a pretty long time on the ground. And it's also not too bad for boss damage, more on that in this video if you're curious. As for the rest of our abilities, we're first taking Gambler's Dodge in order to refund our melee ability whenever we use it near enemies, and speaking of, we're going to be taking Combination Blow as our melee ability, but not for the reason you might expect. One thing this build is not is the classic Punch Hunter. We won't be using Combination Blow in the traditional way, but instead we're simply choosing it here because it has the lowest cooldown between it and Disorienting Blow. For the grenade, we're taking Storm Grenade since it received a pretty nice 20% damage buff in the final shape and is generally pretty good for clearing a big group of adds, though you could also swap this for Pulse Grenade if you wanted. Moving on to our aspects now, our first one is going to be Flow State. This is going to make it so defeating jolted targets makes you amplified, and then while you're amplified, your weapons will reload significantly faster, and you also gain a plus 200% boost to your class ability regeneration speed, making your dodge come back a lot faster. Our second aspect is going to be Tempest Strike, a rather underrated aspect that honestly fits this build so incredibly well. Tempest Strike adds a new sliding uppercut melee ability that deals a pretty good amount of damage that also jolts any targets it hits. This is also why we chose Combination Blow, because this reduces the cooldown of this ability to its minimum. I was never a huge fan of this melee in the past, but now after using it for a good amount of time in testing, it's actually become one of my favorites, and the aim of this build is to use this melee as often as we can. So we use Gambler's Dodge to recharge it, which then procs Flow State from the jolt, which then leads to faster charging dodges, and then the cycle repeats. Moving on to our fragment choices now, we're first taking Spark of Shock, which is going to allow our grenade to also apply jolt. This is here to maximize our arc debuff output and to make sure each of our abilities applies some sort of arc verb. Next we're taking Spark of Discharge. This is going to make it so getting kills with arc weapons progresses a counter that spawns an ionic trace upon completion, and rather nicely, it's only 3 kills on red bars to spawn one. In a similar vein, the third and possibly most important fragment is Spark of Ions. This will make it so defeating jolted targets creates ionic traces, which as a reminder are by far the strongest elemental pickup since they provide upwards of 12.5% ability energy to all 3 of your abilities, letting our ability spam be that much better. Finally, our fourth fragment is going to be Spark of Resistance. This is simply going to provide a flat 25% damage resist when near 3 or more enemies, and given that Arc Hunter is a little on the squishy side, this is a welcome addition. That about does it for our abilities. Now let's talk weapons, and it's here that the fun factor really starts to kick in. For your kinetic slot, it really doesn't matter. I've gone for Witherhoard because of the numerous artifact perks buffing grenade launchers, but you could also replace this with a chill clip weapon, for example, or even a rocket sidearm. Totally up to you. But then for your energy slot, you must be using a weapon featuring the new perk Jolting Feedback. And in my opinion, your 2 best options are either the seasonal pulse rifle Vantage Point, which I've made a review on just recently if you want to know more, or the new VS Pyroelectric Propellant auto rifle from the Vesper's Host dungeon, which is quickly becoming my personal favorite choice. Jolting Feedback is the new perk that allows the weapon to apply jolt after a certain number of bullets make contact. And thankfully, this bullet counter transfers between kills, and for auto rifles specifically, when the perk is enhanced, it takes 15 bullets to proc, but if you're amplified, it takes only 12, and given that we're going to be amplified all the time, we'll have this bonus constantly. This means that in a 48 round magazine, we can proc jolt exactly 4 times, which is actually pretty nice. My roll also has eddy current on it, but in an ideal world, you'd want one with strategist instead. Thanks to Ritz on Twitter for pointing that one out, it seems we're both strongly Arc Hunter pilled as of late. I would also recommend equipping the new Synergy mod to occasionally make the weapon spawn more ionic traces, which according to the compendium is once every 12 kills, so not too bad. Your heavy slot also doesn't matter, just run whatever you'd like. I can't stress enough how good this auto rifle feels to use, and especially once we consider artifact perks, it's truly a treat. But before that, let me quickly touch on alternative exotic armor and build stats. As I mentioned at the beginning, Raiju's Harness is the featured exotic for this build. It generates an impressive amount of super energy on kill and allows all of your jolted kills to provide bonus super energy, as well as leading to you being able to recharge your super in as little as 30 seconds. But if you're looking for a similar option that also provides you with a heap of damage resistance, then Gifted Conviction is still going to be a really good pick here. As a reminder, Gifted Conviction enhances both Ascension and Tempest Strike by giving them exploding jolting sub-munitions on cast, but also applying jolt from any source while near enemies also grants you a stacking resist buff up to 4 stacks that caps out at a whopping 50% damage resist, which for higher level content is excellent for keeping you alive. So for general play and medium difficulty content, Raiju's Harness is for sure the way to go, but in high level activities like Onslaught or GM Nightfalls, Gifted Conviction will likely serve you better. As for your stats, prioritize getting 100 total in both Resilience and Discipline, then try to get either 40 or 50 in Mobility, since being amplified provides an additional plus 50 to your mobility, so if you manage to have 50 base stat, being amplified will put you to 100, which reduces your dodge cooldown to its minimum, and after that, pour the rest into recovery. Now let's talk about your choice of artifact perks, and it's here that the build really completes itself. If you're using Vantage Point, make sure you take Enhanced Ether Generator in column 2 to improve its origin trait, but after that, the only 2 mods we're concerned with are Trace Evidence and Retinal Burn. Trace Evidence will make it so rapid precision hits against enemies affected by Jolt or Blind will spawn an Ionic Trace, and then if it's boosted, collecting said Ionic Trace will also grant you an armor charge. So right now, we have 4 sources of Ionic Traces: Spark of Discharge, Spark of Ions, Synergy, and now Trace Evidence, which is quite a lot to put it lightly. So when this perk is boosted, we'll never have to worry about armor charge ever again. Retinal Burn will make it so rapid arc weapon precision hits will blind the target, and in fact, this is actually only 2 precision hits, and then when it's boosted, it instead emits a blinding burst. And this is fantastic for 2 reasons. Number 1, it now gives your arc weapons an insane crowd control aspect that also feeds directly into Trace Evidence because of the blind, and number 2, it also lets us stun 2 types of champion in just a single gun: Jolt for overloads and Blind for unstoppables. Jolting Feedback plus these 2 mods makes your weapon feel incredible. It makes me wish we still had Galvanic Armor from last season, since that would have made this setup insane. As for the rest of the artifact, I've just gone for some GL mods like Concussive Reload and then Conductive Cosmic Crystal on the off chance I'm using a chill clip weapon for some boosted ability damage. No build in episode Revenant is complete without a tonic though, and for this build we are of course taking the refined tonic of Amplified Arc, which conveniently boosts both of the aforementioned artifact perks, but also grants primary ammo arc weapons increased damage while amplified as its passive. So what's not to love? Of course, it's a bit of a bummer that this effect only lasts for 60 minutes, but if you've played enough this season, you should 100% have enough ingredients to craft multiple of these. Alright then, let's wrap things up by talking about our mod selection, shall we? For the helmet, we're taking double hands on to get increased super energy from Tempest Strike kills and Arc Siphon to make orbs on double kills with Pyro. For the gloves, we need heavy handed to make orbs on melee kills, bolstering detonation to give a little bit of class ability energy on grenade damage, and focusing strike for the same thing but with our melee ability. For the chest piece, we're actually going with a single charged up to increase our armor charge count by 1 and then a couple resist mods like usual. For the boots, we're taking stacks on stacks to make it so collecting either an ionic trace or orb of power grants 2 armor charges instead of 1, then a single arc surge to improve the damage of pyro by 10%, and then the mandatory mod recuperation to give health on orb pickup. Finally, for the class item, we're going to need special finisher in case we need to top up our special weapon, powerful attraction, and then reaper to make more orbs since we're going to be dodging fairly often. Now let's discuss the optimal gameplay loop, and it's actually rather simple. Your aim should be to start an engagement by using either your Tempest Strike or grenade to get some jolted kills to get amplified as quickly as you can, and from then on, just go to town with your Jolting Feedback weapon and spam abilities as soon as you get them. Remember to reserve your melee for Tempest Strike only, and be sure to aim for the head to proc Retinal Burn. I'm very happy that Arc Hunter always has some unique offerings each season, and this build is definitely that, so I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. As always, there will be a dim link at the top of the description for you to copy the build hassle-free. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. I'll see you in the next one. If you made it this far, thank you so much. Your support means the world. And if you're really into the content I create, consider becoming a member of the channel, which not only lets you support me in the best way possible, it also nets you a whole host of awesome perks along with it. A massive shout out to these members up on screen, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now, dear viewer.